Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Hey, Connected Life friends, Justin here, and we're about to dive into part 2 of this 2-part episode with Doug and Janice Burrows, Abby's spiritual parents, and their biological daughter, Pietze Duffield. And before we do that, I just want you guys to know it is going to be an incredible episode. We're going to get to see the repairing process that they went through as they were getting restoration inside of their family, and you're going to be so moved by it. With that said, last week I made an announcement that we are launching the application process for our Life Consulting Masterclass. For those of you who don't know, that is a 40-week program over the course of one entire year. And in this program, people not only get a deep dive understanding of what we do as life consultants, so you can jumpstart your own business if that's something that you've ever been drawn to, but also it's a year-long intensive heart restoration process that all of our students go through. Last year was the first time that we did this LCMC in this way to this scale. We've trained up many consultants, but we specifically rewrote the program and put it on a very specific scale and interaction. And I got to tell you, across the board, we've had some of the most incredible stories of people's personal transformation as they're walking through it. Now, a lot of people might look at life consultants and say, I don't know if that's for me, which that's okay, because we've had a lot of students already go through it that said, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do it as a business, but I did know that I wanted something that would take me into the deepest places of my heart and to get the most healing I've ever gotten in my life. And that's something that's happening for the people that are in this program right now. So whether you've been interested in life consulting or you just want something that can bring radical transformation in your life, there is an opportunity to apply for this. But again, this is an application process. There's a very small amount of individuals that are going to be allowed in for the purpose of quality of experience and teaching inside of that. So it's very limited, the seating in it. You do have to apply, but that application process ends, I believe, August 15th. So you want to get your applications in as soon as possible if you're interested in that. And if you are interested in applying, you can email us at lfa@stumvalconsulting.com, and we'll go ahead and send you information over so you can really do a deep dive and see what it's all about and decide if it's something for you. Anyways, with that said, enjoy the second part of this amazing conversation.
Well, last week's episode was so sacred and beautiful and emotionally moving. I had Pietze and her parents on the episode, and it is one of those episodes that I think everybody should listen to, because whatever you grew up with, you need to know what it's like to experience parents being that tender and open-hearted and loving towards you. It was stunning to witness. And so we did part 1 of their story of healing, Pietze and her family's story. And today we are going to do part 2 of their story of healing. I'd recommend starting with part 1 and then listening to part 2. This is Pietze. I'm just going to give a quick recap of what you shared last time, which was Pietze kind of went through a very, her teenage years were tumultuous. There's a lot of disconnection happening in her family. Her parents were working multiple jobs, were really stressed. She was homeschooled. There was a lot of tension happening. And in Pietze being triggered, she shut down and got kind of prickly, put up her walls, became very independent, and kind of stopped allowing her parents to parent her. Quit using vulnerability in their relationship and just went and did her own thing. And so then she got married, had kids, went through some stuff, ended up moving back home with her parents and her 2 kids and her husband. And they went through a season of Trigger City. Triggers everywhere
it's a
for
fun
everyone.
place to visit.
You get a trigger, and you get a trigger, and you
get a trigger, and you get a trigger.
And so out of this season where Pietze went through some personal trauma and her marriage was starting to show cracks, it was in this place that she did a deep dive into understanding triggers, how they work, how your brain works, how your body functions in them, what trauma responses are, what your protectors are. She started learning. She did a deep dive. And as me and her learned more about this, I would say this is the number one thing that has changed our ability to take ownership in our life, to see healing begin to happen around us, and to see personal transformation. You cannot change what you haven't understood about yourself. You cannot change what is in your subconscious. If you want to change your life, the Pathway to Freedom is a course that we made going through all of the stuff that Pietze is going to talk about in this episode. So that you can actually begin to heal, grow, and become the person that you want to be, and have pain not drown you, but have it throw you forward. Does that feel like a good recap, Pietze?
I mean, what I was laughing about that recap is I was like, Abby's recapping this better, not because she was listening to the story in the last podcast, although you were, but it's because you were actually there. So she's like throwing in things that I didn't say, but I'm like, yep, that happened. Yep, that's exactly what that was like, because she witnessed it all. So, good job, Abby. I'm proud of you.
I do remember.
Good job being the good daughter.
Yeah. And this is such a treat for me. For those of you who didn't hear the first time, Doug and Janice are basically surrogate parents for me. They have walked through so many hard seasons. I can think about most hard seasons in my life and like going to their house and crying, and them just being so compassionate and caring. The beautiful gift about Janice is that she had a mom who was very similar to my mom. And so she was such a support. It's amazing to have somebody like, I don't think I would have known what was happening in my life if it wasn't having somebody who'd already walked through it, who was like, this is what's going on. This is why you're feeling what you're feeling. This is, oh, I can relate to that guilt that you just felt because of this thing. And this is how I felt. And we would go back and forth. And that feeling of being validated and seen in your pain is, I mean, life transforming, is so healing. When I look back and think about the compassion, I had such a crazy hormone problem when I was a teenager, and the amount of, and was in a car wreck. And so Janice would talk me through hours and hours with my mom stuff. And she would mother me in so many ways that I wasn't getting to experience. And then Doug, I just remember praying for me. I was in so much pain all the time. And he would pray, like he was relentless. He would pray for me. I lived with them, and he would pray for me multiple times a day sometimes when I was in so much pain. He would pray every single day. There was never a moment where he was frustrated or angry or disappointed with me or made me feel like a burden because of it. And honestly, from that, eventually I miraculously was healed of a very painful body problem that was caused from a car wreck. But I will never forget the perseverance and love and kindness. And so it's just an honor to me to get to have an episode where people get to experience the love and generosity that you guys have in your hearts. I know that it's going to impact other people the way that it has impacted mine. So, that being said,
sweet, Abby.
What?
It's so sweet.
Oh,
what?
I was having a
I kind of muttered it. It was like, you're so sweet. Like through gritted teeth.
All of my friends make fun of me because of how I say what. I say it aggressively, like what?
Oh, it's totally an aggressive what? What? I love it.
Okay, so Pietze, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I'll take over. I mean, yeah, so Abby just kind of did a recap. And I do just want to say this, and I don't think I said this on the last podcast, but even just in working with people, it's so easy to, what's the right word? Believe that you don't have any kind of pain or trauma because you weren't physically abused or you weren't physically abandoned. It wasn't extreme, right? Like we go, okay, if I was physically abused, then I could have something to show for why I messed up. Or if I was but I wasn't. I had a safe, stable home where my parents provided for me and there was love and it was good. And I would go even as far as what I love about our story is I actually think you guys were such amazing, exceptional parents in so many ways. And I still have pain from childhood. But I think pain where I really shut down for years, But I love that because I think that for most people, they can relate with, like, most parents are not bad parents in the sense that their hearts are good. They're trying really hard. They're doing the best that they can. And they fall short because of their humanity, because they're human. And if you're human, you're not going to do things perfectly. And if you're not going to do things perfectly, it means that there's going to be pain.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of people, like, what I like about our story is just, I think that it's relatable to most people, that they can go, oh, I can look at my parents and go, oh my gosh, you guys really were such amazing parents. And there were things that were really hard and caused me a lot of pain. And I think that that's more common than not,
you know? Absolutely.
But I think, after I asked you guys to get behind me with speaking, which was so vulnerable, and then just hitting such a hard season of my life. And that's where triggers, that's where learning about triggers, that's where the tools of pathways really were like birthed out of that season in my life. And you guys graciously let me teach like everything that I was learning at our church, and at that point, Johnny and I were leading a marriage group and we were teaching, the stuff that had helped us, which later on formed into what is now Pathways. But at that point, it was just kind of like these concepts that Abby and I had come up with of a way to really help me, more than anything, help Johnny so that we didn't fall apart.
Yeah.
I started to see, it was really cool because as I was teaching the concepts to my brothers, so my brothers and their wives were in our marriage group with us, and I taught it to our marriage group. And as I started to teach it to them, we started having these like really funny experiences as a family where we had like shared language all of a sudden, and where we had understanding for each other. And the boys were starting to use that language. And then you guys, like in me, like teaching it to you guys and us, I think some of this stuff, like it's biblical stuff. Some of this stuff is just emotional health stuff where it's like, oh, I know this, but we had common language. We had a common direction together as a family that I feel like started to help us be more powerful in creating connection and healing the past, which I feel like was a huge shift in our conversations. So Mom, do you want to like talk about kind of learning all of this stuff and how it impacted you and the journey, like from your perspective for our family?
Definitely. I remember I was talking with one of my sons, Joshua, and on the phone, and we were just having a conversation. And I started talking in a way that he became really silent. And we ended the conversation. And then about 2 minutes later, he gave me a call back and he said, Mom, I just need to talk to you. But something you said really triggered me. It really put me on edge. But I want you to know before I say anything more, it's my responsibility to deal with my trigger.
Wow.
I want to share it with you so you can understand what's going on inside of me.
Wow.
But you don't have to fix me and you don't have to feel bad. I just need to tell you that this is a trigger for me.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. I don't think unless he had taken that course with you, he would have had that language.
Yeah.
No.
He would have had the ability to share with me what he was going through.
Yeah.
And so he told me what it was that triggered him, what was so hard. But he already gave me the freedom where I didn't feel like I needed to fix him.
Right.
And so I literally, of course, I could apologize and say, Josh, I didn't realize it. I totally understand. Whatever you need, however I can help you so that you can heal, so that you could get past this. And it was a beautiful experience for us. But I think it could have been a messy experience.
Right.
Right.
Had he not had that class.
Right.
Had he not had that language. Had he not learned that he didn't have to go into blame.
Right.
He could share with me what he was going through and we could both, in a sense, find healing.
And I think what's cool about that story even is that because you didn't feel like it wasn't like this silent thing where you were just like, I don't know what I said. I don't know what I did.
Right.
Like, because he was powerful and came back and communicated, and he didn't come with like any kind of blame. He came with like, Abby and I talk a lot about extreme ownership. He came with a lot of ownership. Like, it actually allowed you to lean in and like validate him and have compassion for him because it felt safe to, because there was such a safe, like, relational
I could take
connection.
ownership because he took ownership too.
Yes.
So it was a beautiful moment. It really was.
Yeah. And I think that there was just like to me, there was such a healthy transformation during that time that was subtle. It wasn't like this crazy, like, oh my gosh, we learned all these things and now we're like this amazing family. It was just like, okay, somehow now we have some tools that we can meet in the middle, and these conversations are going well, or they're starting to go well, and we're having common language. And so at that point, I think I was like, okay, I think it's time for me to like really open up and be vulnerable with you guys. And I think honestly, like, it was not anything I planned. It was like I was over here and I just kind of started opening.
You planned it forever, but then you didn't plan it. It was like you had been processing this.
I knew the conversation was going to happen.
Months. She was like, I know I need to talk through things with him. I know and you were building. I remember you building, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet, but I'm moving towards there. And then there was a moment when you knew, okay, I'm ready. And then you didn't plan the specific night, but you actually knew that you were ready.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, because that is actually the truth. In my mind, I was like, it wasn't like I sat down and was like, we need to talk. It was,
let me give you a bullet point list.
Yeah. Which I always think, when you start a text or a conversation saying we need to talk, all you're doing is elevating someone's nervous system to the point where they're already triggered before they ever come into the conversation.
Yes.
You have no idea what you're going to get. But it was just one night I was over here and I was really struggling, and I started to open up to Mom, and I just knew, even by the way that you responded to me, Mom, I could feel your compassion, that I just felt safe enough to let you in. I felt safe enough to go there. And then Dad came downstairs. He was upstairs working and came downstairs.
Okay, now I remember this.
Yeah, you remember now. He's like, what conversation? I'm like, Dad, only like the most life-changing conversation of my life.
He's like, which one?
You were drinking too much communion wine that night? Just kidding. Just kidding. If you know my dad, he like does not drink. And I think you were a little like, oh gosh, what am I walking into?
Well, yeah, you kind of walk in the room and you go, oh. You want to kind of
you just want to go the other way.
Yeah.
You want to pull a dad move, like a guy move, and like I pretend like I'm not here and they might not see me. Like just silently walk out of the room backwards, backing up slowly.
Yeah.
But that conversation for me was probably one of the most healing conversations I've ever had in my entire life. Because, and it was such a beautiful thing because it was such a different experience than the past. I had done so much work inside of myself through all the work that we have done that I wasn't coming to you guys like, I have to be seen. I need you to see my pain. I need you to see how much you hurt me.
I
And I
need you
wasn't
to
even-
heal me. I need you to fix this pain. I need you to respond
Yes.
in a way that will fix the ache I've had forever. Like a lot of people enter
Yes.
into conversations with almost like a sense of control. I have to get that thing I've needed my whole life
Yes.
from them.
Yeah.
And that is
Yes.
a powerless feeling. And so we often don't even show up as our best selves.
Yes, 100%. And I think that that's how I showed up in the past, because there was work that you guys couldn't fix. Like I needed to do that work inside of myself. So when I came into this conversation this time, yes, it was about repair. Yes, it was about getting seen. Yes, it was about feeling understood, but it was the motivation was not those things. The motivation was connection.
Yeah.
The motivation was that I knew that I actually wanted deeper connection with you guys. And I knew that in order to have a type of relationship where my walls were down, that we needed to go to these places. And I needed to know that you guys saw me and that you loved me there. And I needed to feel your guys' heart. And so I didn't come in.
Guns
I mean, maybe
blazing.
you guys can speak differently from your opinion, but to me, when I came into that conversation, I wasn't coming in to blame. I was coming in to share my life, to share my experience. And I feel like simultaneously, whatever work you guys were doing on your end, you guys came in such a humble way of like, I remember like getting done sharing and you guys just saying to me, what do you need from us right now? Like how can we love you right now? Because I shared all this pain and all this stuff. And you guys were like, what do you need? How can we love you right here? And I was like, honestly, and I let myself stay tight to myself where I was like, not just like, no, it's fine. I just needed to say it. I was like, no, I think I need to hear that you love me. I think I need to feel like you see me. I think I need to feel like you see the pain and that you have compassion for that girl, that you don't judge her. That like, even in my hardness and the things that I didn't do right and I did horribly, that you could see the little girl that was hurting on the inside, for me, I think I needed to know, like, am I worthy of love? Do you think that I'm bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you guys just leaned in and validated me. I felt like you guys were so humble and validated me and told me how much you love me, reassured me this is what I would have wanted you to feel out of that season. I mean, did you guys feel the shift and the difference like in that conversation?
Yeah. I think, all the things that you and Abby have been learning and teaching definitely have showed up in our conversations. And I think the biggest thing is that we're walking less in blame and we're walking more in validating what we're feeling. So, Pietze, we could validate what you were feeling, but also you could validate, hey, Mom and Dad, I understood these were hard seasons, or I understood you were going through a difficult time. And because we're able to do that, I think we're able to lean more into each other because we definitely felt seen.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're understanding that our hearts were not to be that way, but definitely we were that way.
Oh, totally. And I think even during that conversation, as you're talking, I'm just remembering like there were a couple triggers that came up specifically. Even Dad, I remember you triggering at one point and I could just feel you shutting down, like feeling like, oh my gosh, like I failed. Like this is, and I was able to be like, Dad, like I could read it because I know how to read all the signs now. I know how to tell exactly when I can read them like a hawk.
We can teach
And I'm
you
like,
that
Dad,
in our course.
Yes, you can learn. You too can learn all the signs and all the things and know what everyone is feeling around you. But I think because I know, I was like, Dad, do you feel shut down right now? Like, do you feel attacked? Do you feel like I'm blaming you? And you were like, yeah, like I do. I feel like I failed and you started crying and then I started crying. And I was like, my heart, like you didn't fail me. Like, and my heart is not to come and like make you pay or blame. Like, I just want to be seen by you. I just want to be known by you. And I don't want you to feel like you failed me because you didn't. And it was like a moment that normally, like if you would have triggered like that and I hadn't have done the work, would have triggered me and completely shut me down where I put up all my walls again.
Because normally
that's what would have happened in the past.
Yeah. You normally feel somebody shut down and you are vulnerable and you're needing love. And so it feels like an attachment crisis. It feels like somebody's removing love. And then you feel vulnerable and hung out. So then you put your walls up so that so that their removal of love can't affect you as much. And then that's where it just spins out. But because you could connect to it and because you had worked a lot on your own attachment stuff and healing and compassion towards yourself, you were able to keep love on in that moment.
Oh, 100%. And that's, I think I felt, for me, it was for me even, I was like, oh, wow, I've grown so much because I didn't attack back. I didn't I didn't put my walls up. I didn't go like, oh, never mind. Like, whatever, never mind. Like, I stayed connected to myself and I was able to like stay connected to compassion and love for how unbelievably difficult it would be to hear your daughter process. I mean, like, as I have kids now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so painful. That would be so hard.
But you're right. I would have to say that, excuse me, I definitely have seen a change in you from the years ago that we were processing things through all of what you have been learning, all of what you have been teaching, and the way that you can come with, your walls down, staying connected, validating, understanding triggers.
Yeah.
I definitely have seen a big improvement.
And it's more than just language. What's changed? I mean, the language helps because it helps you see things, look at things. You were saying, hey, Dad, you're triggered. Do you feel attacked? That's language. The atmosphere is what's changed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good word.
The atmosphere of love and acceptance. And in that moment, I'm probably the least versed of all you guys in the language stuff with triggering and things like that. Whereas, even the boys have been more exposed to it than I have. But I was able to thrive and have you actually help me bring me back to a safe place that night. And you were able to give words to it. I mean, that's been my issue my whole life. Jan would say, hey, you're mad about something. And I go, no, I'm not. And it took me 3 weeks to figure it out. And then I come back and go, hey, the thing I was mad about 3 weeks ago?
She's like, yeah, I tried to tell you were mad.
And,
thanks for wasting three weeks of my life.
And I
remember, I laughed so hard because I remember that part of you. And also I married a guy just like that.
I was like Justin, so what can I say? But, as a person that really loves words and uses words for a living, to not be able to articulate that, but to be able to enter into this atmosphere and the atmosphere itself to be healing, then to add words to it. So you begin to understand looking backwards, oh, okay, I was experiencing this. And that experience then has helped when Jan and I talk. So she's able to say, hey, are you shutting down? And, it doesn't take me 3 weeks. It takes me 3 minutes maybe, or 30 seconds, or when miracles happen is when it's immediate. Like, yeah, I'm ticked off. I really am.
That's amazing though, because that's even been the biggest change for Johnny as he's gone through that he's seen, that he's like, it used to be years that we call it submarining. He would submarine into his feelings and like not come up and it'd be shut down and he couldn't figure it out. And as he did all these tools, he started, and then like editing the course and getting it again. Like, he's like, oh my gosh, my time of being able to figure out what's going on inside of me and communicate it is like literally night and day.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, Dad, because I don't think that I realized that was part of your growth journey as well.
Yeah. I'm a dude. Because, you're what you're not up on, you're down on, right? And so I wasn't conversant in that. But again, I go back to the atmosphere. The fact that Pietze and Janice over the years have set atmospheres that it eventually coaxed me out of this thing because I didn't know I was triggering. I just thought that was me.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how to look at it.
So good, Doug.
And so how to change it a little bit, it was just, that's how I react. That's what I do, So
and I think that's what most people think, that these things are just a part of who they are. Like, this is just my personality. Like, Johnny is just an introvert, or Justin is just gruff on the outside. Or,
right.
Do you know who have you guys seen Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Justin is Roy Kent.
Oh my gosh, he is Roy Kent. Oh my gosh. And Johnny's Ted Lasso. My husband is Ted Lasso.
It's true.
Oh my gosh. This is amazing. Yes. I love when we can categorize people and overgeneralize them.
So
especially our husbands.
I'm feeling a little triggered right now. I don't know.
Let's walk through this now. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, Janice, you had something. I had cut you off earlier. Do you remember what you were going to say?
Actually, Doug went back to it again, just about atmosphere. And I think that's something that we really have practiced, is to not make a combative atmosphere, and not allow it to escalate. If it ever did, many times we just cut it off. But
you mean between you and Dad?
Or Dad, between us?
I mean, I think we cut it off eventually, but when I was a teenager, and that's what I think is so amazing. Like, we definitely had some knockout, drag out.
Absolutely. And that's why I love why Dad brought it up now. I thought, oh, that's so true. You could say all the right things.
Yes.
But if you're not creating an atmosphere of love, they actually can become damaging.
Well, and I just want to say, like, one of the things that I tell people all the time, because we spend a long time breaking down. In the course, we spend a long time breaking down how to recognize what's coming up inside of you, how to lean into it, heal it. And we give you this tool that kind of flips it from feeling like you are the victim to feeling empowered and being able to go and take ownership. And whenever you take ownership in a situation, it creates abundance for people to get their needs met. And one of the things that I've noticed in my life, and I love that you use that word atmosphere, Doug, because I never have put that to words before.
Right.
But you're right. It wasn't because I had the emotional language before. I had all the tools. But it was the fact that, like, the entire atmosphere flipped. And so it actually became, even in conversations that would have gone off the rails before this, they would have caused tons of damage. There was such a healing atmosphere and such a safe atmosphere because of all the work that we did, that it created so much healing between all of us. And to me, that is part of what really flipped it. And so we ended that conversation. Like, I was able, like you said, Mom, to come back and be like, I know that season where I had a lot of damage, like, you guys had the cookie, but you had the bakery, you had the church. Your brother died during that time tragically, which was horrible for you, Mom. Dad you guys never saw each other. I don't even know how you guys had a marriage at that point, because you guys were like ships passing in the night,
stronger than ever.
Well, I think
we didn't have time to fight.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Totally.
Relationship was perfect. We never saw each other.
But where I was able, and you guys were able to share, like, hey, you guys even came back to me during that time and said, we're able to share some of the things that I did that were really painful for you guys. Like, hey, we felt like you didn't love us. We felt like we couldn't do anything right in that season. We felt like you hated us. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you probably did. I was able to own it and have so much compassion and cry and be like, I'm so sorry that you guys felt that way. And you probably did feel that way. And I genuinely felt connected to that because I felt so seen and loved and safe with you guys. That, like, I was like, oh no, I actually have a lot of compassion for how horrible that season must have been for you guys. So that, to me, that conversation really kicked off us, and it created this bridge where we're like, okay, we can get there.
Right.
Yeah.
We actually now have success.
Right.
One time. It takes one time. And you like to know that we can get through to repair and it can go well. And I remember before that, I think there was moments where Pietze felt hopeless. Like, will I ever be able to do conflict with my mom and have us end with resolve? Like, will that ever be the case? And so this one time, as soon as you see that it's possible, you know that even if you hit your head again on a wall, that it is something you can get back to, which I think is so powerful. I wanted
empowering.
Very
Go ahead,
empowering. Well, I wanted to mention this. I know that we're off the subject, but I think it'd be worth saying, just for people who are listening, it is very easy to learn all of the right emotional intelligence language. I did that for years. I knew all of the right things to say. And so in conflict, like I know in conflict with Pietze, I would say the right thing, but she would feel my huge wall up. So even though and it's a very confusing feeling. And I just wanted to kind of validate some people out there. When somebody's saying words that are nice, but you're feeling anger or hatred or disconnection, hardness, or you're just not feeling their warmth. It could be as simple as you've like oftentimes I go back into myself when I'm triggered. And so you can't feel my warmth. So even if I'm saying of course you're my best friend and I love you and whatever I could say, if you don't experience, and that's part of why we want to teach people how to do the work inside themselves. So it's not just words with hardness.
Yeah. Everything is about starting with yourself first. Mm-hmm. And that's what leads to transformation in the relationships outside of you. But it starts with you.
Yeah.
And that's so true, Abby, because I think that that's the point where even sometimes I think even in the past, even when we were saying the right things, I'm sorry. Okay. It was we were trying and that was all we had.
Right.
And but neither one of us walked away feeling, oh, I feel so seen.
Absolutely.
Oh, I feel healed. I feel like they got it. I feel like I could see them. I feel
Absolutely.
And that's again, that's the healing atmosphere, and
one of the things you're talking about, Pete, sorry, I'm just going to jump in a few times.
I love it. Jump right in, girl.
You're talking about changing the idea of conflict from conflict is about who wins to conflict is about, I want to see you and I want to be seen. I want understanding. The goal now you're talking about a totally different aim in conflict. It's not to prove you wrong. It's not to punish you. It's not to get you back. And it's not to react out of your pain to try to get them to solve your pain. The goal of confrontation began to be connection. And it began to be I want to allow you to see and know me. And I know that our relationship won't be full if you don't know what's going on inside of me.
Yeah.
And that connection is what really brings healing to a family system. Mm-hmm. When Pietze was disconnected and we were disconnected from her, our influence shrunk to infinitesimal. It was so small. But as we both sought for connection, we didn't know everything, but we wanted to hang in there because we value her.
Yeah.
And in that, then she, her reconnecting with the family and pursuing that connection has brought about health. And a lot of, she's able to impart some of that to her brothers and their wives. And even in our relationship, it's come in there. So not, trying to stay connected is so huge, because if you disconnect, then you have no influence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no way to change and help people move into that atmosphere of love. You might experience it by yourself, but that family can change if you just aim for connection.
Yeah. The beautiful thing though, when you say, everything you said is so good. And I was just thinking about watching her, and she actually did the work long enough that she could come in. Because what happens is lots of times people want that connection. And so they jump in when their pain is raw. And it's I imagine sometimes people have just gushing wounds all over them. And they try to jump in and grab their parent to fix these wounds. And then if they don't respond well, it's so damaging.
Yeah.
And so because
Right.
she
Yeah.
was not at the place of crisis with her wounds, she was
Because it's so high stakes.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you don't react well, it's going to break me.
Yeah.
If you react well, it's going to heal everything inside of me. But that's not fair to the
Realistic.
other person. That's not even realistic. You walk away with a bigger wound.
right.
I think that's what Janice was talking about when she said, I can be right or I can have a relationship. And when somebody
Yes.
comes to confront you, which Pete's now has done several times.
Several times.
Feel those gray hairs sprouting up? I caused them since day one, and I'm still causing them
It's
now.
all mileage. But, in those moments, it's really important that you become vulnerable. And that's the issue of saying, I want relationship. I don't want to know that I'm right and win an argument. And you said that, Abby. It's not about that. It's changing that up. And I remember the first time that happened in Janice and I's relationship. We were going through, it was during that cookie phase. And
Which is the hard phase, the
The
dun
hard
dun dun
phase.
phase
Yeah.
of our
Yeah,
life
sorry, the hard
season.
When he says
When we were
cookie,
working so much.
they had a cookie business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
bakery.
bakery.
Yeah.
And we made like $3 an hour when we finally figured out all the costs. It was tough. But anyway, one night Jan and I got in a row, and I remember
And by that, he means like a fight.
all the British people understood exactly what I just
My
said.
dad has a very large vocabulary,
Yes.
and oftentimes
Vocabulary.
I have to have him dumb it down for me to
Oh,
understand what he's
whatever.
saying. Anyways, go ahead, Dad.
Well, anyway, so I asked her, and she's a night person, I'm a day person, and I asked her, what is it that you want me to change? And it was just pure frustration. And I went to sleep, and in the middle of the night, I woke up and I could feel somebody looking at me, which was the weirdest thing.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was turned away from her. I turned back to where she was, and she was sitting up in bed staring at me.
Oh, you're dead.
Oh,
You are dead.
dude.
You might as well just roll over and die.
And here's the funniest thing. I remember in my heart, I just felt like God said to me, you need to shut up. You need to listen, and you need to own this because she's about to tell you. And that's, if you know me, that wasn't my way before. I mean, I am a keen justifier. This is why I did this,
Yeah.
and you should own it. And she unloaded on me. She told me all the things places that I wasn't hearing her, and I wasn't nurturing her heart. And, so what? It was a hard season. I still had a responsibility to love her well. And I wasn't doing it. I remember we got done. Well, she got done. She looked at me and she said, do you have anything to say? And I went, you're completely right.
Wow.
Mm.
That's a lot of humility.
That's me. Well,
That's so much humility, Dad. That takes so much courage to be that humble and to say, yep, I see what you're saying. Even though there probably were reasons why you did what you did. There's probably ways that you felt unseen, but just that humility is so powerful.
if I hadn't been warned, just, and I'm sorry for people that don't understand this language, of just sensing in my heart that God was speaking to me, tell me to do this. It was not my natural reaction. And when I said that to her and said, yeah, I own it, that's my stuff, I was wrong, I'm so sorry, and owned everything, she was flummoxed, man.
She had no words. She's like, who is this man?
She did.
What happened?
If you could see her, she's shaking her head. Yeah. But I think it was really important because I think that was a crossroads in our marriage that could have gone really south had we allowed that little fissure begin to expand because there wasn't moving toward connection in that moment. And that's what played in my mind the day Pietze came into my office was the very same thing that I heard that inner voice that God was speaking to me, just said, just be quiet, just listen for once and just let her speak. And, to say that somehow I came up within myself and my own emotional health for this stuff, nothing, I don't think that's true. I think it's this blending of humility towards somebody else standing in front of you that deserves just to be heard, not to kick the can down the road by a bad response.
So good.
But also to hear God and just let him
Yes.
tenderize your heart in that moment, because I knew no matter what she was about to say to me, no matter how painful it was, I knew I was loved. And that helped everything. And it was the same thing that night with Jan. I just knew I was loved. And as scared as I was and as hurt as I was, I just knew that. And that helped so much.
Yeah. I mean, I love that we all have a relationship with God where it's not religious, but we just, we have that love that we stand on because it's so important. But I guess I want to say to you, Dad, that I feel like one of the things that you've done really good as a father and led the way in is humility and showing me what it looks like to be humble. And even in situations where you felt, I think one of the deepest pains, especially for me, is feeling misunderstood and unseen. Because inside I believe that my heart is good, but the way it comes out is bad. And I think one way that you've led really well, Dad, is just you've shown the example of what it looks like to be humble. Even when you're not being seen, to say, you were always quick to say, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. And I'm really sorry. And that has shown up in my marriage so many times where I've thought about that. And I'm like, oh, I know how to be humble towards Johnny. Even I think back to the example of you, Dad. So I really appreciate that. I know you didn't say this for accolades, and I know you're like, oh,
So
I
uncomfortable.
didn't say this for... But
We're all crying,
But
though.
I do just want to say that because I mean it.
Well, and I think what he's saying is something that was so important was for us to keep our relational circuits on, for us to not be triggered, for us to have an atmosphere. We have to be able to be connected to love. So much of this comes back to connect. So Pietze, in the past, her attachment pain would be so painful that she couldn't connect to love when she was interacting with her parents. So she just shut off and would harden and wall off. I did the same thing in my life. When I felt that disconnection from love, it would shut me down. And the worst parts of me show up when I feel disconnected from love. I'm edgy. I'm going to logically lawyer you about why I'm right. And I can win. I am the winner of the law. I
will say, if there's one person who can win an argument, it is Abby. It doesn't matter if she murdered someone and she will tell you, convince you that never happened.
Winner, chicken dinner.
She should have been a lawyer. You would have made lots of money.
That side of me is my trauma response. So really, I shouldn't have been a lawyer.
That's true.
Good at
we
it.
probably all would have disowned you. We can't be around you anymore.
Yeah, I would have had to live in trauma responses, which is where I had, gotten to before learning and going on the healing process. But my point was that what he said was so important is that ability to connect to love. And we talk in the course about learning how to connect to love with self-compassion, learning how to connect to love with God, learning how to connect to love even with other people. I know that when my relationship circuits are off, like maybe sometimes I'm in a fight with Justin and I can feel my attachment crisis freaking out. Like I could call Pietze because I feel safe with love with her. And then I can get back to
connect back to love
so that I can get back to when I go into that dialogue doing that. So there's a couple things I wanted to just ask you. I know one of the things that you have done, Pietze, is you've learned to walk away when you're triggered in conversation. So can you talk about a story with your mom or dad where you actually learned how to walk away when you needed to and come back to it?
Gosh, this is hard because I can't think of a specific, because the truth is that even we've had recent conversations where I'm like, okay, this is going off the rails, And I'm like, okay, like we're trying to get there. You can feel that we're both trying, but we're both having triggers. We're both having pain. And I've just been like, okay, I think maybe we should shut this down. Like we're going to end up in one of those situations where we cause more damage and neither one of us want that. And it's funny because there's definitely been times where we've done that, where we've just shut it down, you know? But recently what's been so funny is why it's so hard is because I think out of those situations, actually, because we have the same language and I can say like, hey, this is feeling like we're getting out of our window of tolerance for this conversation, that we're able to like kind of take a deep breath and reset and figure out how to get back to connection. So it's funny because we teach that as an elementary thing in the course. It's an elementary thing, and sometimes we still have to use it. And it's not bad to use that. It's not bad to walk away. That's actually better. It's something that we teach is actually a really healthy thing.
If you communicate well with it and walking away with love.
Yes. Yeah. And we teach all of that, like, because otherwise you're going to trigger people's abandonment and it's going to be horrible. But,
yes,
which has happened before to me. But, you know, but we've been able to, now that I think we've gotten a little further in the journey, and there still will be conversations probably where we have to go, let's just walk away. Let's come back to this when we're in a better headspace and we're actually creating that healing atmosphere that you talk about, Dad. But I feel like it's just been interesting because recently it's been like we've been able to take deep breaths, kind of come back to center, come back to like, what's the goal? The goal is connection, and pivot into that without having to actually walk away, which is funny, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely, like, there was definitely a lot of seasons, and there still will be, you know, just because we've had so many amazing conversations and healed so much doesn't mean that we won't run into snags where that's just life. That's doing life with anyone, you know?
Yeah. But now you guys have a history where you have more and more
every time you have a success, every time you have a breakthrough, you build off of it the next time, and it gets easier and easier.
Right.
Yes.
That's what's happened with Johnny and I. You know, when it took us, like Abby was saying, that one time of breakthrough. And that was huge because it was like, okay, we can get there.
Yeah.
We can get there. We can actually get there. Now we just have to keep building off of that. But now it's like we can get there almost every time.
Yeah.
And it's rare that we can't get there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that it like consistency compounds. We talk about that all the time in the course. Consistency compounds. The more you do it and you stay consistent, it compounds to where it becomes your normal.
Well,
you know?
I remember years ago, I felt this like the inner voice that I connect to God. Like, I felt sparked by this idea the thought came to me, I'm going to have to do conflict the rest of my life, whether I want to or not. If you're married, if you work, if you are in public, if you drive, there's no way to avoid conflict. And so I remember,
as long as you're in relationship with humans, you will have conflict.
And so I remember this like invitation, this invitational thought of feeling like God was saying, you can either learn how to become great at this so it doesn't traumatize you, or you can run and hide from it and survive it the rest of your life. And so I've kind of set my mind, and I would say like I'm still really bad at conflict. I'm just so much better than I was. Like I'm so much.
You know what?
Good.
We're all
That's
getting
good.
there. We're all getting there. We're all on the journey, and I love that you said that because like that's so human, right?
Yeah. Okay, Janice, I think you had one other story of how you used triggers with one of your other kids recently. Would you share that?
It was actually really eye-opening for me. I was visiting my son in Wisconsin, and the whole time we're having deep theological discussions.
Which can be very triggering.
And in some just minor things biblically, we look at things a little bit different. And
I'm laughing because
or a lot of different.
Yeah. That was like continue on. Sorry.
So, when he would be talking about how he looked at things, I constantly felt this urge that I wanted to change him. Like, oh my gosh, I just want to change you. Oh, man, you need to change. And it was creating so much conflict inside of me.
Yes.
And we were just sitting in the living room talking, and I felt it really strongly. And I think, honestly, it was the same, of course, voice that my husband heard those couple times. And I felt like the Lord just said, you're triggered. You're being triggered. Suddenly, it was like wisdom hit my face, my eyes, my mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's not that he's the problem. It's that I'm being triggered by what he's saying, because what he was saying was actually a lot of what I grew up in my legalistic religion. And it wasn't that what he was saying was bad, but it just kept making
triggered
me
your
feel
past.
Right. It made me feel like I was having all these discussions with my relatives and, you know, and the legalism and the judging and all of that. And I realized I was putting all of what I went through in my past onto my son.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
That
I
was
remember I
huge.
stopped the conversation. I said, son, I just must tell you something right now. What you're saying is triggering me. That's why I'm struggling. And one of the hardest things, we had mentioned it, but my older brother took his life. And there was a lot of judgment in the religious circles that we were in over what my brother had done.
Yeah.
And
Just
so
such a horrible, can I just say that is such a horrible thing when you are walking through losing your brother, to feel like people are debating about what he did and judging what he did.
Whether he made it to
and you
heaven
just
or
lost
not.
your brother.
Right.
And so I said, you know what, honey, I feel the same thing with you, and it has nothing to do with you. I'm putting on you all the things I've gone through in my past.
Wow.
That's not fair to you.
Wow.
So I'm not actually responding kindly to you. I'm not responding with an open heart to what you're saying, because I honestly felt that a lot of what my son was saying was good.
Yeah.
But I couldn't hear it because it was all mixed up with all that stuff from my past.
Well, of course.
And because I could say that and I could come humbly, I could share. I could see he started tearing up, and he went, Mom.
I was just going to ask you, how did he respond after you said
He
that?
was so kind. He said, Mom, never would I want to put that on you. Never would I even think that, first off, about your brother. But that's not at all what my heart is. I don't feel that way at all. And see, again, I was thinking he was feeling that way.
Right.
I was putting him in all those places.
Yeah,
I was
he in
comparing
judgment.
him to all the people that I had difficulty with because of judging. But it was such an eye-opener to me. I can't even tell you the freedom that happened to me that day, because I realized I'm not actually looking at my son. I'm looking at everybody from my past.
Yes.
I'm looking at my pain. I'm looking at my pain.
I'm looking at my pain, and I've never given him the chance.
Wow.
I've always wanted to shut him down. And I was just thinking that when Pietze was sharing on our last podcast about not being seen, I thought that of him. Maybe he at times has not felt seen.
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful moment. And it was a beautiful moment again of understanding how we could want to change people around us because we cannot deal with our pain.
Because of our own unhealed pain.
Instead of realizing that once we get healed, people around us are way freer to be who they are.
Yes.
Well, and not just that. I love that's such a good statement, Mom. And I love what you just said, coming back to like what Dad said about atmosphere, because you took an atmosphere that was starting to go down a road
combative,
that was going to cause division and pain and fractures and hurt.
Right.
And because of that one step of like recognizing what was happening inside of you, recognizing what was coming up, you literally shift the entire atmosphere into one of like freedom and connection and love and healing, actually, which I'm like, that is like so powerful. That's so powerful, Mom.
It was a real, again, connecting time for us.
Yeah.
Well,
It changed it.
yeah, go ahead. What were you saying, Doug?
No, I was just going to say it changed it. I mean, because I was the third person in the conversation for the previous nights. And when she did that, the conversations were different. Same subject matters.
Yep.
But everything surrounding it was
tone.
different.
Yes.
Yeah, completely.
A different tone to the conversations.
Well, and it's so, I mean, you said so many, I just wanted to quote every line you were saying was like a quote. The more healed you get, the more people around you can be free to be themselves, is such a beautiful thing. And your ability to take ownership and recognize. And I think people so don't want to own their own pain. And I'm listening to it and I just have like so much compassion. I'm like, of course you would be protecting yourself. Like if I had grown up with judgment and then my brother had killed himself and then that became a point of people judging me, and then you hear any kind of language that would remind you of that, or any kind, your body sends you into protection without you even knowing it. Your heart is like, no. This feels unsafe. This feels so unsafe, you know? And so of course you want to, and so that thing of like, I want to change somebody is really, I want to feel safe.
Yeah.
I want to feel okay. And I'm feeling threatened right now. And so there's like, I listened to it. It's so remarkable that you were able to see him and notice that, but also just like the compassion towards you to be like, man, I'm so sorry for how much people came after you in ways that was so damaging. Like I felt compassion for you even as you were sharing this story.
And, I think in sharing it again, just like I said, going through this process of these two podcasts, just realize again how much we don't understand that we don't really accept each other.
Yeah.
Because we are triggering each other.
Yes.
Just to say quickly and easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
That we are triggering each other left and right. And so what we're saying to each other emotionally is, stop, I don't want to be around you, or I don't like who you are. Stop being who you are.
Yeah.
And yet that's not our hearts.
That's not actually how we feel towards
That's
that person,
not
but
how
that's
we
what's
feel.
spoken to
That's
them out of our
exactly
pain.
what's communicated.
Yeah. Well, I do just want to, was there anything else, Abby, that any other questions?
No, go ahead.
That you had? Is it okay if I bring this sucker?
Yep.
Okay. I do just want to say that one of the things that was a huge turning point for me, so we had these conversations. We had some hard conversations. There were triggers. There were even having to pause. There were times, Dad, even like where, I remember us talking and you triggering again and me having to be like, Dad, even like me reassuring you, like, I love you. And then you coming back and reassuring me, I love you. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And that's all we could get to. And we're like, we have to pick it back up, But at Christmas time, as a surprise for me, Johnny took all of our family home videos. And with my dad's the only other one who knew about it. None of us knew about it.
Huge surprise.
Johnny took all of our family home videos from VHS. My parents, when they had no money, bought a video camera to send, because we moved away from grandparents, so that they could send the grandparents like footage of us. And I think hands down, probably like the best money you guys ever spent. I'm so thankful that in a season where they were so expensive and you were burning furniture for firewood, that you chose technology. For once, it does us some good. But Johnny took all of our VHS tapes, and I have so many memories of Mom and Dad walking around with like practically like, I don't know what these things were, like full-size cars that you had to like these video camcorders that you're holding on your like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys lugged that thing around everywhere. That's commitment. I'll tell you that. That is commitment. But Johnny took all of these home videos and digitized them and surprised me with literally every single home video. And so I have my baby dedication, and then there's a small chunk where we didn't have, and then like when I was 4 years old on of our family. And even like we recorded so many random things. Like like there are times where you see me as a teenager shut down. There's times where you see blow-ups happen. And I literally, Johnny gave it, it's funny because he did our wedding video too. But I was so impacted by our family videos because I hadn't seen them in years. Some of these I had never seen before. And so starting Christmas, I literally watched every single one. I've watched every single one.
Wow.
Of my entire childhood. And it was hard. And there was times where I felt shame. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like I was a jerk as a teenager. Like who treats their people like this? Like who does that? Of course. Like, and then there was times where I had so much compassion on myself. And there was times where I can't actually look at videos of myself when I was younger and not cry because I just see the innocence and how much I loved and how much like I see my little girl who actually underneath all the hardness, underneath all the pain, like was really loving and really loved her family and really wanted to be loved and wanted everybody to be happy and wanted everybody to be taken care of. But one of the things that Johnny said to me when he gave me the videos, and then we later on surprised all of us, Abby and Justin Skyped it or like FaceTimed in. My brother in Wisconsin FaceTimed in, and Johnny gave the videos to everybody.
Best Christmas gift ever.
Best Christmas surprise ever. But he got up and said, like, through tears, like, basically, like, I want you guys to know that I know as a family, like, you guys have been through a lot of really hard things and there's been a lot of pain. But when I was watching, because my poor husband had to watch every single one of these videos behind the scenes without me knowing about it. Had this whole setup in the basement that I didn't know about. My baby dedication, he wound by hand for an hour so that we wouldn't lose it. He had to repair tapes. It was crazy. It was so much dedication. But he got up and said, I just want you guys to know that even though you guys have been through so much and there's been a lot of pain, there's like you guys have really amazing parents who loved you guys so much. And when I watched these videos,
we're all crying again.
I felt inspired to become a better man and a better dad because of watching the way that your parents loved you guys. And when I watched the videos back, I could see that too. And I felt that too. And what was really powerful for me is I think had I not done this work, it would have been really painful to watch those videos. And there was definitely painful moments, but for the first time, I could see my family without the lens of pain.
Yeah. That's good.
And seeing you guys without the lens of pain, I was able to see who you guys actually were. And who you guys were towards me and who you guys were towards my family, towards our family. And I fell in love with you guys in those videos. Like, I was like, I love this family. I love this cute, quirky and sweet and precious and messy family. And I thought, man, like, you guys are better parents than I am. I was like, you guys should be writing parenting course. Like, they're sitting down, like, singing songs with us while we eat dinner. And, like, just, like the most precious moments that you guys, like, captured. And some of them were, like, again, there was hard things that were, it wasn't just, like, you guys turned it on for the camera. Like, there were hard moments that were captured. Like, you guys would just set it up on a tripod and, like, just let it roll while we were all in the room. And which is so funny now to think who's going to watch. But I watched it. I watched the whole hour of us eating dinner. But the good, the bad, the ugly, the dad jokes, all of it. But I just want to say to you guys, like, I guess I just want to say that I love you guys a lot. And thanks for Sorry. Thanks for everything that you guys have done for me. And for like choosing in even when it was hard and being really incredibly humble and loving. And for all the sacrifices that you guys made over the years, I want you to know that I see it. I won't ever fully see it because I won't ever be in your guys' shoes, but I see it now more than I've ever have. And you guys, what you did in parenting, even in the hard moments, I know took everything inside of you guys to love us the way that you did. And I'm really thankful to have you guys as my parents. And even the fact that I can sit here saying that today feels healing because there were times where I couldn't say that.
Yes.
And that's sad to me because I was missing out on you guys, you know?
Well, I know I so appreciate it, Pietze. And we've had 6 kids, but we only have 1 daughter.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
I wouldn't even trade the hard times because it's made us where we are now. And it's made us better people because of it. And I'm so proud of you, honey.
Thanks.
And I'm so proud of you for doing the work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
for
love you to
loving.
pieces, honey.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I'll always be the thorn in your flesh.
Well, this
Sometimes
is the honest
pushing you
truth.
towards hard things, sometimes pushing you towards good things.
Yes,
but
I do have to say, I think because we always laugh so much about all the stories we've had about Pietze when she was younger, I think that it kind of skewed the narrative. And when you look at the videos, you realize again, you were so sweet, you know, and you were the oldest with Jerry, yet you were the one who helped with so many of the kids and Baz and, you know, swinging Caleb outside and, you know, walking one of the kids so I could finish dinner. You were the one who did that.
Yeah.
You know, and you were very sweet.
thanks. Yeah. I did kind of have a bad rap there for a while.
You did. You had a really bad rap.
But we've redeemed me through the digits.
We did.
Through the video. So thank you for that.
There's all those
But it
listeners
is-
out there that are like, why don't I have a video to redeem myself?
I know that's
Yeah.
poor Johnny. He's like, he doesn't have one home video. He's like,
Bless his heart.
yeah. It's so I'm like, well, you were the good kid in your family.
Yeah,
So you don't
that's
need them, honey.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, Johnny, one of the boys, was kind of the easier
Yes, my
kid.
brother Johnny. We have
Johnny,
a lot of
my brother
Johnnies.
Johnny. That's right. And he'll say, "You don't have any memories from me," like because he was so good in a way, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
Sorry,
it's true.
your
You
dysfunctional sister took
Right.
all the memories.
But you actually
Took
you
all the memory
remember all
space.
the funny stories which have to do with that.
Yeah.
But I did remember before the video cameras that you were really sweet, that you were always very helpful.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually
Yeah,
think
well,
you
and
guys
I remember-
had in your conflict, I remember you guys having conversations about that, like remembering
Yeah.
the innocent
Yeah.
parts, the sweet part
Right.
underneath
Right.
the
Yeah,
hardness
well,
of
and what's funny
teenagers.
is even before this year where I saw the videos, we had like one family Christmas where we pulled out a VHS player
Yeah.
and played them. I don't know if you remember this, Mom, but you like couldn't stay and watch the videos and you were crying so hard and you ended up leaving. And the next day and I was crying too. And I didn't know why I was crying, but I felt really connected to like the little girl in the video
Yeah.
where I was like, oh, wow, like what a cute, like I was actually
Yes.
kind of cute, like
Yes.
sweet. And you came down the next day and you were like, I forgot how sweet you were. I forgot how precious, like I forgot you just wanted to help. You so
Yes.
wanted to make sure that everyone was okay. and
yes,
make sure everyone was taken care of. And that felt really healing to me to
Yeah.
hear. I didn't know I needed to hear that. Like I actually didn't know that I
Yeah.
needed to hear that. And I'm like, it's the very same thing that got me into trouble as a teenager
yeah,
is because I knew that people weren't okay and I couldn't fix it and I didn't know what to do. So I just got angry. I just
Yeah.
got upset.
Yeah.
I just felt, and then I felt misunderstood.
Right.
But like that part of me is actually good part of me.
Right,
That's like to my
exactly.
core who I am.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's so
So-
good.
I was just laughing
Yes.
thinking about teenage Pete's, who was like the evil stepmother to Cinderella to her brothers, because she
I was.
she so wanted to help. She wanted to help Doug and Janice so much that she would like order all of the boys around to try to make them
I was the
clean,
mom.
to try to make them do stuff. But then she became like a tyrant to do it. She was like, "What are you doing? I just spent 5 hours cleaning that kitchen."
Why did you get a dish dirty? Why did you eat? I just spent 5 hours cleaning the kitchen.
And, you know, I honestly think, too, that one of the hardships was that our lives became so unbelievably busy and stressful right when you were going through
Yep.
teenage hormonal.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
And the combination of those two is really what set everything
Oh, yeah.
off.
Well, and I think
Oh, yeah.
Pietze's really sensitive to attachment. And so I think you guys
Yes.
became so busy. And then, like we
Yeah,
talked about in the last
exactly.
episode, you stopped
That's
touching her.
right.
And I think feeling that withdrawal,
Oh my
I think
gosh.
actually sent her
Absolutely.
Well, and that's
Yep.
something that we
Attachment
talk
panic.
about in
Yep.
the course, because me learning attachment was like the missing piece of the puzzle for me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, when I feel safe and attached, I'm good. You know? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was huge, Abby. So,
Yeah, huge.
Well, I am so thankful for you guys being on this episode. I think what you shared is so powerful and people are going to be so impacted. You know, we talk a lot, we teach it in the course, we teach it in all of our courses about learning how to reparent, that you can actually open up those spots that you didn't get things as kids, and you can allow encounters and moments to heal those things. And I'm just sitting here listening to both these episodes, feeling like you can just feel like what a good family feels like, and not a perfect family, because a perfect
no.
Right.
family doesn't
No way,
That's
we're
exist,
not
good.
but like a family where there's love. And so many people didn't get to experience parents who were loving and kind and who were fighting for relationship. And so if you're out there listening and this feels foreign and your heart actually hurts because you've been dying to have a parent respond to you like this, I just want to encourage you to allow yourself to posture your heart where we're listening to them. You allow that love to soak in. I remember watching, there's this mom, the past 10 years that I've known, and I would watch how she treated her daughter, and I would just soak that in. I'd watch the feeling of it, and I would just soak it in for me, because that wasn't something I could experience. And we have the ability to let moments where we encounter what love is, we have the ability to let that impact us and make a course like Doug and Janice for my life became the billboard of what was possible. Oh, you can have a healthy marriage. Oh, you can love your kids in your life. And there's so many ways that they gave me vision for what my life could be. And so if you're listening to these episodes, I just want you to feel empowered that if you haven't experienced this, if you don't have parents like this, then you can have vision to experience healing on your own and then create this in your own world. I know that I've gotten to mother a lot of people the ways that I wasn't mothered by my mom. And there's a part of redemption in that for me. And also, if you're out there and you have family that is like this, I think it's a great, this is your sign to go call your family and tell them that you love them. And some of you out there are realizing you need to get more vulnerable and tender. And so I just want to encourage you to do that. And there's some of you out there we really want families to do the pathway to freedom. We want marriages to do the pathway to freedom. Like, we've seen that the more people learn it, it's kind of like how you see Pietze and her parents, them processing about it over and over again and talking through it have created more light bulbs for themselves. And when you heal with community, it transforms your life so much faster. And I know even for me and Justin, processing with Pietze and Johnny over and over again, when you have people around you that are constantly Was that your trigger? What are you doing? Are you owning that? Like having the people around you really, really can throw you forward in this journey. So yeah, if you want to do the Pathway to Freedom, me and Pietze will be doing live sessions inside of the Pathway to Freedom. And teaching and working people through stuff so you can learn how to do it yourself. Our goal is to empower people to be able to get healing themselves so they don't have to need, so that they have the tools themselves. So you can go to Justin and Abi, that's abi.com, and go to the Pathway to Freedom. And if you want, Doug, would you be okay with me giving your Instagram or Facebook handle? Because I'm sure there's a few people that would love to write in and tell you how they were impacted.
Sure. That's fine. Yeah. It's D Burrows on each of those.
On Instagram and Facebook. Cool.
Yeah. BURROUGHS.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. W. That's good. I wouldn't have thought about that. And then if you want to, they pastor a church in Greeley, Colorado. It's called Fusion. And so if you're in Colorado or in the surrounding areas and you would love to just experience the goodness that they are in person, which they are, they are, I mean, they were just everything that I wanted to be growing up, and they still are. And so if you want to experience that, I'd recommend looking up their church and heading over there to do that. So thank you guys so much for being on and for being so authentic and real and normal and human and beautiful. And I've loved this so much.
Oh, we love you, Abby.
Good.
Yeah, we're so proud of you guys.
Yes.
And we love you
So
to
proud
pieces,
of you,
Abby.
yes.
You're the best.
All right.
Yes, you are.
I am. Freaking am.
Not that it's a competition.
But we all know I'd win.
It might be.
Was.
I mean, we'll see. I've really gone up. I've gone up in the ranks.
I was the favorite daughter for years.
That is true. I have it out to demote you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All
Have
right.
a good one.
Bye.
Love you. Thank you.